The Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy through the Department of Water Affairs is funded by the SADC Groundwater Management Institute, SADC-GMI, by funds sourced from the World Bank to the tune of $150,000 to undertake a pilot project on groundwater monitoring and solar energy application on water supply. The project is being implemented on 11 selected sites within 4 river basins, namely Lomati, Nkomati, Mbuluzi and Lusutfu in the Kingdom of Eswatini.
I'm the Executive Director of the SADC Groundwater Management Institute, a Center of Excellence for Groundwater in the SADC region. We collaborated with the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini and WaterAid to implement this particular pilot project, which I believe it is a success in our view. This project was based on our 4 I's principle as pursued within SADC-GMI, where I represents institutions, information, infrastructure, and instruments. So the project touched on all aspects of this specific principle promoted within SADC-GMI. Within the infrastructure, of course, we provided infrastructure to access the grassroots communities and to support their endeavors to cope with the impacts of climate change and to build resilience as part of that. We also are supported through this project the generation of data which is obviously going to be used to generate information for supporting the decision support systems. Without information, you cannot manage the resource, and hence we are quite excited that we are part of this project, which we believe will go a long way to initiate a full-scale system to monitor the groundwater resource within the government of Eswatini and the communities and other stakeholders that have been engaged in this project. So congratulations to the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini, WaterAid, and the communities that have been beneficiaries of this endeavor to promote the sustainable development of groundwater in conjunction with surface water, as seen through the participation of the river basin organizations in the Kingdom of Eswatini to promote the success of this project. Thank you.
My specialty is groundwater surveying, supervision of drilling works, pumping tanks of drilled aquifers. We are here to show you work that has been done under the project that is groundwater monitoring installation in the country with the support in terms of finances by SADC Groundwater Management Institution. We have executed this program that is the installation of the loggers with WaterAid Eswatini. Here on the map we are showing you where the sites are located. We've got here, this is St. Paul's, just above Makuga Dam. We've got a site here, this is Egufigeni Clinic. We've got a site here, this is Pigs Peak Gold Mine. We've got another site here, this is Lufafa by the Lomati River. It's a transboundary system. We've got here Matamo. This is another site, this is another transboundary aquifer. We've got here Timbisini Primary School. We've got here Mavula Primary School. We've got Mkuzweni Health Center. And then finally we have Mjoli Dam. So the essence of this project is actually resuscitation of a groundwater monitoring program in the country. We understand that of recent years, groundwater has actually taken super stage in terms of water, that is water supply to our people in the rural space. However, the challenge with groundwater, we do not see groundwater by visual, but we have to manage, we exploit it for our domestic needs. As we do the abstraction of groundwater and drilling of groundwater, this is a natural resource that we exploit. However, we have to ensure that it is exploited sustainably. So in view of that, we have embarked on a resuscitation program, that is the research, groundwater monitoring and management of the resource. Bear in mind that groundwater and surface water, they are intertwined. So without groundwater, all the rivers will cease. So rivers that we see in the country and world over, they actually lose water to aquifers. Aquifers are groundwater under subsurface systems which can have a capacity to store and transmit groundwater. So rivers will transmit and will also recover water from these aquifers when the water table declines. So in the Eswatini project, we were funded to a tune of $150,000 by the World Bank through the SADC-GMI. So this is a project that is actually, for now, it is a pilot, but we intend in the near future, or presently, to extend this system countrywide, so that at least we have a national network monitoring of the resource. So in that space, we know surface water, we can see the rivers by eyes, but we have challenges in terms of pinpointing the aquifers, which are subsurface bodies in geological terms that are able to store and transmit water when needed. So groundwater is a very complex subject to understand. It is easy to exploit, it is easy to deplete, it is easy to pollute. However, it is also essential that we step up and we manage groundwater in conjunction with surface water for long-term sustainability of the resource. The country is growing, the people are also, numbers are also growing, so the resource is actually not growing as those two numbers are also growing. So we need to find a space whereby we are operating sustainable and cut balance in terms of having a sustainable resource for the future and for the next generation. I thank you.
My name is Anna Cestari. I work for the World Bank. I'm a senior water resources specialist, and I am the task team leader for the SADC Sustainable Groundwater Management Project. These days we are talking particularly about groundwater, but groundwater has always played a very important role, particularly for drinking water supply. As we know, particularly in the continent in Africa, thousands of boreholes have always been drilled to provide water for people, particularly at decentralized level, where you don't have surface water that is of acceptable quality. Normally you try to drill a hole and try to find better quality water that requires less treatment, is less subject to pollution, and therefore is safer to drink. Obviously, with the impacts of climate change, we have seen recurrent droughts and prolonged droughts. I think this Southern Africa region has been particularly affected. The conjunctive use of water, surface water and groundwater, therefore becomes particularly important, so that you can adjust water uses as to be able to secure continuous supply of good quality. So the World Bank, as a partner to the Cooperation in International Waters in Africa, CIWA, and the Global Environment Facility, the GEF, engaged in a dialogue with the SADC member states, as well as some of the key organizations and the Secretariat, to explore needs and opportunities to improve the sustainable use of groundwater in the SADC region, recognizing that as we face new challenges driven by climate change, but also by population growth and by urbanization, groundwater was playing an ever more relevant role. And therefore, we set together the drawing table that happened many years ago. And this has evolved in what now is the Sustainable Groundwater Project in the SADC region, managed by the Groundwater Management Institute, based in Bloemfontein. And I think it's really the results of a vision that integrated water resources management has to be pursued to achieve sustainable water access and use. I must say I've been here a year and it's been extremely delightful. I've seen the project progress. I know there was a lot of work done before I joined, and I think the Groundwater Institute, the hosting institution that is the University of the Free States in South Africa, as well as SADC Secretariat and all member states must be really commended for their commitment to the project. It was not easy. The institute was set up basically through the project, and in a matter of 3 years, it really established itself as a center of excellence. And now at the World Bank, because we talk about things, and you have been able to, as an institute, to display your experience in several of the international conferences, what has been really interesting is to see how really your experience is now being noted everywhere in the world, and how people are asking to come and visit you and learn from your experience. So it's really very, very refreshing to see how the 16 member states work together through the Secretariat and with the Institute to really make sure this idea took off. And now it has taken off, and I think it's taking you on a very interesting journey. And I am delighted to see how you have been able to support and mobilize young people in the region, young professionals. I think this is very important. It's the future. We are looking at how the future will develop, and you are going to be a critical actor in the quality of that development. And I just want to say also on behalf of the other of the donors, that the bank is facilitating this activity, that we're very happy with the work that is being done.
The Department of Water Affairs is implementing this project through WaterAid Eswatini. WaterAid is responsible for the comprehensive implementation of the project components on behalf of Water Affairs.
Eswatini has been supported by SADC-GMI, who has been funded by World Bank to actually respond to a major challenge that we are exposed to. As a country, we are having a groundwater which is benefiting over 75% of our raw water infrastructure, which is actually the main source of our raw water infrastructure. And this main source has been utilized either the right or the wrong way, only because we haven't been in a position to generate data that is giving us evidence whether we are doing things the right way. And we also are seeing an increase on individual borehole drilling, which is also impacting the same water source that as a country we are relying on. Thus, it has informed and made us to actually pause and want to understand as a WASH sector, what can we do to better inform, to better design, to better give direction to government. So with this particular support, government will have information, evidence, data, real life data on the performance of this groundwater table. We are only piloting this through the support of SADC-GMI on 10 sites as we speak, and these sites are not only focusing on just sites that we are assuming should be overutilizing or underutilizing. We are also focusing on any potential implications that could be caused by some of the activities that take place above the ground, like where we had mines. We wanted to ensure that those activities that the country was actually conducting, complying or not even affecting the groundwater resource. Thus, this project has started last year May, It has been extended, but it was otherwise planned for a year. It has been extended to end in November due to the COVID challenges. It is supporting 7 institutions, which is 5 schools and 2 clinics. It's also having sites that are just in communities where we are trying to understand the performance and relate. We will be in a position, once we start to generate the data, to correlate the relationship between the activities we do above ground and the performance of this particular water source. We also want to understand what could be the other implications that are causing some of these boreholes that we drill to dry out, to change in quality, to also change in color. So these are the key things that we want the country to have evidence, to have data, to have capacity to monitor, to track, and also give substantial information and direction on how best we can respond as a sector to ensure that we conserve this resource for better use in future. This project has benefited a total of 67,000 people, 109 on all the monitoring stations, which we will pilot in 9 sites. And we are not only piloting without production, we also have production sites, which are mostly in institutions. They are in schools, and 1 is in a clinic. It's only 4 production sites that we have, and these production sites are going to be allowing increasing access to reliable, clean water to 667 people in the country of Eswatini. This investment is not only going to be the drinking of clean water, but this investment is going to give direction on how best can we inform, design, strategize, and also inform policy on how best we can manage the groundwater resource as a country. And all this is an appreciation to the SADC-GMI, which has selected Eswatini to participate on the pilot process, and also much appreciation to World Bank, who has funded this initiative.
As a country, Eswatini, we embarked on this groundwater monitoring project because we wanted to know what is the effect of climate change on groundwater resources in the country. We have seen increasing in temperatures around the globe, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. And as a country, we want to re-establish our groundwater monitoring exercise in the country. One of the key impacts that we have established this project to address is the impact of climate change on groundwater. It's because climate change is going to reduce the rainfall that is coming into the country, hence groundwater recharge is going to be also affected. It is very clear that without monitoring of climate change and monitoring of groundwater, we will not know what are the impacts of this climate change on our groundwater resources. Hence, WaterAid, in partnership with the SADC-GMI and also the World Bank, we have invested over 2.1 million emalangeni, which is $150,000 to establish and resuscitate the groundwater monitoring in the country. This groundwater monitoring will help the government of Eswatini to understand the impact of rainfall on groundwater recharge, and it will also help us to take the necessary steps and that we need to take in order to resolve the impact of groundwater in the country. As WaterAid, we are very proud to be an institution that has partnered with both the SADC-GMI and the government of Eswatini to help the country to resuscitate about 10 monitoring wells around the country, funded by the World Bank and the SADC-GMI. As WaterAid, we are committed to ensure that this groundwater monitoring increases and it helps the benefit the poor people of Eswatini. Not only we are implementing groundwater monitoring or installing groundwater monitoring locals, but we are also piloting the use of solar technology in our groundwater pumping. We have realized that sustainability is one of the key issues in the country when it comes to aspects of groundwater pumping. And as the cost of electricity has been increasing, communities have been left with despair in terms of ability to pay for groundwater pumping. Hence, through this project, we have been supported to install about 6 solar powered pumps that will help us to minimize the cost of electricity. This is seeing over 5,000 beneficiaries estimated across the benefiting areas will have access to clean water, and making sure that we eliminate all diseases that are associated with that. We would like to pledge our continued support to this project as WaterAid, and make sure that as we move forward, groundwater monitoring sites are expanded, and we make sure that we establish the necessary policies and the necessary strategies that will make sure that groundwater is continued to be monitored. And not only that, we want to monitor and have data, but we want to use the data for application in terms of managing the resource. We are very happy to be also working with the National Steering Committee on Groundwater, or the National Focal Group, to make sure that this resource is preserved. In the light of climate change and the diminishing of surface water, groundwater will play a very crucial resource in sustaining water needs in the country. Hence, we would like to say thank you to the World Bank and thank you to the SADC-GMI for considering such a noble initiative that will support the country, Eswatini. Thank you.
The Kingdom of Eswatini has still a significant number of citizens who do not have access to safe and clean water for their day-to-day activities. And this, it places a heavy burden on the communities, and especially the people that are tasked with the assignment of collecting water, such that the government and the partners have to upscale efforts to ensure that water supply reaches these areas. Groundwater is often a proximal resource to where it is needed most. However, it is not to suggest that groundwater is a universally available resource. With this information in mind, and knowing that the Ministry is a custodian of natural resources in the country, we consider groundwater as one of the pillars, a backbone and an engine to support socio-economic development and to support subsistence agriculture in many areas of the country. We have seen groundwater becoming a very strategic resource in times of drought, and also in places where surface water is not readily available. So in most instances, we find that groundwater is safer and cleaner and readily usable without extensive treatment processes, and therefore preserving groundwater in its purest form calls for everyone's cooperation and collaboration. Therefore, as a ministry, we recognize the importance of the role that is played by the various stakeholders in this house, some of which may not be in this house, so that we collectively ensure the protection and preservation of groundwater resources and how we can go about to assist in ensuring water supply through groundwater to the various sectors that are in need of this resource. It's the professional and the fiscal effort of SADC-GMI and the World Bank that has been extended to the Kingdom. The Ministry also appreciates the assistance received from WaterAid Eswatini for their great display of cooperation and diligence that has been seen during the execution of the project. The project had a term of July 2019 to June 2020, but has been extended up to the end of this year. So we appreciate all the work that has been done.
Sibonga kakhulu sigangathe kuma sponsors ethu SADC losiniketa lamanti lasiniketa wona lahlobile. Impilo la ekhaya itolo beyilukhuni. Ngaloku ukuthi lesithole amanti lesikhanza sesiwapantshelwa kanye ngeliviki aphele lamanti. Bantwana kumangalise ukuthi manje sebathathola lamanye ekunatha kwela nje tonke idingeko letidzinga kutsi emanti tisisite khona emanti.
The school has just received an assistance from WaterAid. We have received a certain device whereby we are going to be monitored. We are going to have our water source monitored. That device is very important because it will help us relieved from living in fear. We'll know exactly what is happening in our water, whether it is contaminated, whether the quality of water is reduced, the quantity of water. So we'll be able to be in a limelight on what is happening down there, rather than just living unknowing of what is happening. So we are very much grateful for getting such a help.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu WaterAid ngale project labasendela yona. Cha, njoba sesiyathi nyalo ukuthi itasisita ukuthi sikhone kwathi ukuthi lamanti esitawadla ngilahlobe kanganani njoba ngala kuchama imifula ehlukahlukene. So if ikhazakala semfula ihlobile sesiyathi ukuthi lamanti sesingawasebenzisa si community siwadle ngoba vele sinayo sinenkinga yemanti. Manje ukuthi sisherane imfula lochama eSouth Africa. Ngicabanga nje in short lokho kutasisita kakhulu ukuthi sibone ukuthi emanti esiwanathayo ahlobeka.
Yes, lo msebenzi waka WaterAid abambisene nakahulumende stasisita ekubethenini asibukele ukuthi la emayini asidlini emanti la angasi right kude nomthelela lomumbi longena phansi kwalamanti le siwadla ngoba kwanyalo sisadla imanti la chamuka la tihoshini lesingathi ukuthi wona aphephe kanganani sizitakhamoti dala kayele lokusho ukuthi siyawujabulela kakhulu nje ukuthi kube khona la kulendzawo. Siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi nathi sibe lomunye waleti kolo letikhethiwe ukuthi kwenziwe khona le project yekuhlola emanti, le project lekuthiwa ifundwa nge-SADC. Bese thembile-ke noko ukuthi sitawusitakala la kakhulu njengoba isikole sethu side emanti aso, sidipenda kakhulu emantini lesiwathola e-high school. Seke nanyalo sikalahli lithemba, siyethemba lokho ukuthi